The first thing I noticed about her was her shoes. Patent leather. The kind of heel that belongs in a hotel lobby, not on a dirt road in the middle of Blanco County at 5:45 in the evening. There's a particular kind of wrong that hits you in the gut before your brain catches up. And a woman standing alone on Route 12 in those shoes, 3 miles from the nearest gas station, with dried mud up to her ankles, and mascara she'd stopped bothering to wipe at least 2 hours ago. That was that kind of wrong. I pulled Reno to a stop. He blew air through his nose like he was irritated about it, which, fair enough. We'd been out since sunup checking the south fence, and he was ready for water and his stall. But I pulled him up all the same. She heard the hooves and turned around fast. Too fast. The kind of fast that tells you a person has been startled enough times in one day that their body is just permanently braced now. She was maybe 35. Pretty in a way that looked like it had been through something recently. Dark hair, all pulled to one side like she'd tried to fix it, at some point, and then gave up. One earring in. Small gold hoop and the other ear bare, like the second one fell out somewhere along whatever road brought her here. I touched the brim of my hat. "Ma'am." She looked at me, then at Reno, then back at me. "Can you take me somewhere?" she asked. That was all. No hello, no explanation, no sorry to bother you. Just that, raw and straight. The voice of someone who has already used up every version of asking that had any dignity left in it. "Where are you trying to get?" I said. "Anywhere that isn't here." I'd heard that before, in different forms, from people. Usually it meant something more than geography. "You got family somewhere? Someone I can call." She laughed, but it didn't sound like laughing. It sounded like the word no, if a sound could carry that much exhaustion in it. "Look," she said, and she took a small step forward, and something in her posture shifted. A kind of resignation. The kind that comes just before a person does something they never thought they'd do. "I don't have money. I don't have a phone. Mine's dead. I don't have," she stopped, pressed her lips together, looked off at the tree line for a second. "I don't have much of anything right now, but I can." She stopped again, cleared her throat, looked at me. I can offer you something if you take me into town." I heard what she was saying. I understood exactly what she meant. And I felt something go very, very still inside me. The way it gets still just before you do something that matters. "No," I said. Her face changed. Not hurt past hurt, just bracing. Ready for whatever came next in a day that had apparently been nothing but whatever came next. "I don't need anything from you," I said. "But you look like you've been walking a while and it's fixing to get dark." I swung down off Reno. My boots hit the dirt, and he shifted his weight. Patient old thing. "I'm going to put you on my horse," I said, "and I'm going to walk him into Harmon's Creek. It's about 40 minutes. There's a diner there and a woman named Darlene who runs it, who will not let you go anywhere cold or hungry. That's all this is." She stared at me. I didn't rush her. People who've had a bad day at the hands of the world need a minute to recognize something that isn't that. "Why?" she said finally, and she meant it like a real question, not a polite one, like she genuinely could not locate the reason in any map she currently had. I thought about it honestly before I answered. "Because it's the right thing," I said, "and because that's what my mother raised me to do, and because you're a person, and it's almost dark, you're 3 miles from anywhere in shoes that are already ruined." I took Reno's reins in one hand. "Pick whichever reason you like." She was quiet for another moment. Then she walked toward me. I helped her up into the saddle. She'd never been on a horse. I could tell immediately. Her whole body went stiff as a board, and she grabbed the saddle horn like it owed her money. And I made sure she was settled before I took the lead and started walking. She didn't say anything for maybe the first 10 minutes. Just sat up there with her hands gripping that horn, watching the road like she expected it to do something. Reno was good about it. He's always been steady with people who need him to be. Then she said quietly, "My name's Cecilia." "Holt," I said without turning around. "Holt." She tried it out. "Is that your first or your last?" "Only one I go by." More quiet. A mockingbird somewhere in the mesquites. The light going that deep particular amber it gets about 40 minutes before the sun actually drops. When everything turns the color of old honey and the shadows stretch out long and the whole world looks like it's warming up from the inside. "My husband left this morning," she said. Not to me exactly, more to the air in front of her. Drove off in the truck. Which was my truck, which had my phone and my wallet and my... She trailed off. We were fighting. I got out to walk. I didn't think he'd actually. Another stop. He drove away. I didn't say anything. There wasn't anything useful to say yet, and she didn't need useful yet. She needed someone to walk slow and not make her feel like a spectacle. I walked for a long time, she said. I know, I said. I can see. The road curved around an old live oak that had been there since before my grandfather was born. I knew every turn of this road the way you know a song you've heard all your life. Not because you memorized it, but because it's just there, part of you. Are you afraid of me? I asked. Didn't know exactly why I asked it. Just seemed like a thing worth knowing. For her sake more than mine. She thought about it. Genuinely. No, she said. And she sounded a little surprised at herself. I'm not. And I was afraid of a lot of things today. Good, I said, and I meant it. About 20 minutes in, her hands finally loosened on the saddle horn. She sat up, a little different. Not relaxed exactly, but like something had stopped fighting inside her. Reno's rhythm does that to people. Something about the steadiness of a horse. The way they don't lie. They don't perform calm, they just are it. She started to talk. Not about the husband, not more about that, just about things. Small things. She'd grown up in San Antonio. She'd taught second grade for 11 years. She loved those kids the way you love people you didn't choose but somehow got given. She'd left teaching when she got married, because he didn't like her coming home tired and smelling like cafeteria lunch. Said it as a fact, no drama in it, which somehow made it more awful than if she'd cried. She said she made the best chicken and dumplings she'd ever tasted in her life, and she wasn't being modest about it. She'd earned the right to say so. I told her I'd take her word for it. She asked me about Reno. I told her he was 8 years old, quarter horse. The most honest animal I'd ever known, and that he'd once stood completely still for 45 minutes in a thunderstorm, because a little girl from a neighboring ranch had gotten scared and needed to hold on to his mane. He just stood there. Didn't move a muscle. I loved that horse the way you love a person, and I wasn't embarrassed to say so. Cecilia reached forward and put one hand very gently on his neck. He flicked an ear back toward her. Hey, Reno, she said, soft. Like talking to something she could trust. The lights of Harmon's Creek came up ahead, that little glow on the horizon that a small town makes. Not blinding, nothing dramatic, just a warm low shine, like a candle seen through a window. I've always found that the most comforting sight in the world. Coming home to something small that's still lit. I tied Reno at the post outside Darlene's. The Dusty Fork, the sign says, though locals just call it Darlene's, and I helped Cecilia down from the saddle. Her legs were a little unsteady on the ground. That's normal. First time on a horse will do that. She stood there on the sidewalk and looked at me. She looked different than she had on the road, not because anything had changed exactly. But her shoulders were down from where they'd been up around her ears. Her jaw wasn't set anymore. She still had the mascara and the one earring and the ruined shoes. But something in her eyes was different, less hunted. Holt, she said. Ma'am, you could've. She stopped, started again. A lot of men would have taken what I offered. I know, I said. Why didn't you? I took my hat off, turned it in my hands once, put it back on. Because you weren't offering it, I said. You were surviving. Those are two different things, and a man worth anything ought to know the difference. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were brown, I noticed, and very steady. The kind of eyes that had been through things but hadn't gone hard over them. That's rarer than it sounds. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Darlene's got good pie, I said. Go inside. Tell her Holt sent you. She'll take care of everything else. I turned to go. Reno tossed his head, impatient. Holt. I stopped. I'm going to figure my life out, she said. Starting tonight. I just wanted you to know that. There was something in her voice when she said it. Not a question. Not hope exactly. Something more solid than hope. Like a decision being made out loud so the world could hear it and hold her to it. I nodded. I don't doubt it, I said. And I didn't. Not for a second. I found out later, through the particular small-town telegraph that operates entirely through Darlene's counter, that Cecilia stayed 3 nights at the inn 2 blocks over, that she called her sister in San Antonio on Darlene's phone, That her sister drove up and they sat in that diner for 6 hours and cried and ate an entire pecan pie between them. That she filed papers the following Monday. That she went back to teaching, different district, younger kids, but back in the classroom, by fall. I didn't see her again until the following spring. She came back through Harmon's Creek, which surprised me, because most people who pass through places in their worst moments tend to avoid them afterward. Too many ghosts. But she came back, on a Sunday. And she found me out in front of the hardware store, because the whole town is the size of a long sentence. And everyone always ends up at the hardware store eventually. She looked entirely different. Same brown eyes, same steady look in them. But all that hunted quality, gone. She was wearing boots this time, real ones. Like she'd thought about where her feet were going before she set out. I wanted to see the horse, she said, by way of explanation, like that was perfectly reasonable. Reno's at the ranch, I said. Well, she said, I guess you'll have to take me there, then, and the way she said it, nothing desperate in it. Nothing surviving, just her. Choosing. I smiled. I couldn't help it. Something about watching a person reclaim themselves is one of the finest things you can witness in this life. Like watching something bent back straight. Like watching the lamp get lit again. Yes, ma'am, I said, and we walked.